All right, Numbers chapter 16. Last week we talked a little bit about the book of Concord, so this one we're diving back into Numbers. We talked about laws for sacrifice and stuff like that, laws for how to do stuff. This is going to be back to the narrative, though. Number 16 is going to talk about something that happened rather than something that they were supposed to do or not do. All right, 16. Now Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and Dathan, and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, son of Reuben, took men. So this is interesting. So you want to know exactly who this is. This is the generation here. You can trace it all the way back to Reuben. This is one of the brothers. You remember with Joseph and his colorful coat. They threw him into the well. Reuben was the one who said, he was the oldest brother, and he said, hey, instead of killing him, let's put him in a hole, and then he thought he was going to take him out of the hole later. So Korah is related to Reuben with that lineage. So this is interesting that this is a historical account. This is like if you've ever read Lord of the Rings, it would be The Hobbit, where it would be Gimli, son of Gloin, son of whoever, or it'd be I'm Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thrath, son of so-and-so, Kai, king under the mountain, where you're establishing who somebody is by who their parents are. So this is what's happening here. So who is Korah? Not some random guy. He's a descendant of Reuben. Son of Peleth, son of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with a number of the people of Israel, 250 chiefs of the congregation, chose from among the assembly well-known men. They assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron and said to him, you have gone too far. Okay, so real quick, do you remember what Moses is doing now that they're upset about? What did God just command will happen to the Israelites? That they will wander in the desert or in the wilderness for 40 years. He took them to the promised land. They were there. They could have gone in, but they said, I don't know, it's scary in there and the people in there are going to kill us, so let's not go in. Let's go hide in the wilderness. And God says, okay, you're going to get what you want. You want to be in the wilderness? Fine. You're going to be in the wilderness until you die. And then that's the consequence for these people, except for the two spies that actually told the truth out of all of the 12. So now that the people are cursed to stay in the wilderness, Korah gets some men together and says, okay, we're going to rebel against Moses. Maybe their idea is then we're going to go into the promised land, but they already tried that, if you remember. Some people tried to go into the promised land even though God said no. So a bunch of people went in to try to conquer the promised land. They all got wiped out. God said, what did I tell you? You're not going to, if God says no, you're not going to get a yes just by trying harder. Sure. Yes. So they assembled themselves together against Moses, against Aaron, and said to them, you have gone too far, for all in the congregation are holy, every one of them. And the Lord is among them. Why do you exalt yourself above the assembly of the Lord? So they're asking why Moses and Aaron call themselves leaders of Israel. And remember, it wasn't Moses and Aaron. I remember specifically Moses said he didn't want this job. And God says, no, Moses and Aaron, I'm picking you. When Moses heard it, he fell on his face. He said to Korah and all his company, in the morning the Lord will show you who is his, and who is holy, and who will bring him near to him. The one who he chooses, he will bring near to him. Do this, take censers, Korah, and all his company. Put fire in them, put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And the man whom the Lord chose shall be the Holy One. You have gone too far, sons of Levi. And Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it too small a thing for you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do service in the tabernacle of the Lord, to stand before the congregation, to minister to them? Now he's talking to the Levites. You've got the whole book of Leviticus. These are the priests. They've been set as, Israel is a special people. The Levites are special Israelites. And Moses says, is this not good enough for you that you want to be in charge of everything? And then he had brought him near to him, and that all your brothers and the sons of Levi with you, and you would seek the priesthood also. Therefore it is against the Lord that you and your company have gathered together. What is Aaron that you grumble against him? Aaron's like, don't drag me into this. What did Aaron do that you grumble against him? I mean, Aaron did some bad stuff, but he kind of went along with the people. Verse 12, and Moses said to call Dathan and Abiram and the sons of Eliab, and they said, we will not come up. It is a small thing that you've brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you must make yourself a prince over us. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them and have not harmed one of them. So Moses is confronted by these people, and rather than Moses being thrown into a rage, which you see him lose his temper a few times, but he basically says, okay, I'm not going to fight you. Yeah, he bows down before them, not to worship them, but to basically say, look, God is going to handle this. Everybody, we're going to have these like bronze or brass censers. It's where you burn incense. Think about it like a bowl on a stand. You would burn stuff like a little campfire, pit fire, or something like that. And then somehow God is going to choose who everybody's going to have a bowl of incense, and God is going to choose from among them who is going to be the leader. So it's not going to be me. It's not going to be Moses making the decision. It's going to be God. And then some of the guys said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do anything you say. We're not going to listen to God. We're not going to wait. We're in charge now. You basically, they're accusing Moses of killing him. And he's saying, you're trying to lead us out in the wilderness to kill us. Okay, and Moses says, all right, you refuse to listen to me. You refuse to let God have the last say. God is not going to listen to you. God is not going to respect you. Verse 16, and Moses said to Korah, be present, you and all your company before the Lord, you and they and Aaron tomorrow. And let every one of you take a censer, put incense in it. And every one of you bring it before the Lord, his censer. 250 censers, you also. So you remember, this is 250 chiefs of the congregation. Good morning, good to see you. 250 chiefs of the congregation, and they're each going to have a bowl of incense. You also and Aaron each his censer. So every man took his censer, put fire in them, and laid incense on them, and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord appeared to the congregation. Verse 20, and the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces and said, O God, the God of spirit and all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with the congregation? And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, say to the congregation, get away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moses is telling the people, and they're entreating God for mercy. Now these people completely deserve what's going to happen next. But Moses saying, have mercy on them. Everybody get away from these rebellious people. Let God deal with them so that you can be saved. Then Moses rode and went to Dathan and Abiram. The elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart, please, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be swept away with all their sins. So they got away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and Dathan and Abiram came together and stood at the door of their tents, together with their wives, their sons, and their little ones. And Moses said, hereby you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do the works, and that it has not been of my own accord. If these men die as all men die, or if they are visited by the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates something new, and the ground opens up its mouth and swallows them all, and all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised the Lord. So Moses is saying, okay, these people are now standing in front of their tents. They've got all their family, all of their possessions, everything that they have. And Moses says, if they die the way that it's normal, so there's no question about it. So if Moses says, you're going to, somebody's going to die here, and then somebody has a heart attack, that is something that normally happens sometimes. Then they could say, well, that was just a heart attack. That wasn't God actually killing him. Moses is saying God is going to kill him in such a way that there's no question that it was a miracle. They're not going to grow old and die. They're not going to get sickness. They're not going to trip and fall. The ground will open up and swallow them up alive, which is a horrific way to go. But, well, yeah, worse than an earthquake. But yes. Verse 31, and as soon as he had finished speaking all these words, the ground under them split apart. The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the people who belonged to Korah and all their goods. So they and all who belonged to them went down alive into Sheol, which is hell, or which is the depth, the deep. That means under the earth. And the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. And all Israel who were around them fled at their cry and said, lest the earth swallow us up. And fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. So these are the 250 leaders who were rebelling against Moses and Aaron and God. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, to take up the censers out of the blaze and scatter the fire far and wide, for they have become holy. And the censers of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives, let them be made into hammered plates, a covering for the altar, for they have offered them before the Lord, and they became holy. They shall be assigned to the people of Israel. So Eleazar, the priest, took the bronze censers, which those who were burned had offered. They were hammered for a covering of the altar, to be a reminder for the people of Israel, so that no outsider who is not of the descendants of Aaron should draw near to burn incense before the Lord, lest he become like Korah and his company, as the Lord said to him through Moses. So, yeah, so God swallowed. So first of all, there's the families of the people rebelling specifically and their camp. Earth opens up, swallows them up, and closes over them. So not just an earthquake, but it splits open, they fall in, covers up, they're gone. They're dead. They're completely consumed by the earth, which is not something that happens on a regular basis. Yes, the rebellious. Well, remember, Moses told people to get away from them. So they had fair warning. People had fair warning, even after they rebelled, to make distance. In addition to that, there's 250 people who were supposed to be leaders, and all of them wanted to be priests. All of them wanted to have the position of Moses and Aaron. They said, God chose a leader, but I don't like him. I want to be the leader instead. So they came and they offered a burnt offering as though they were priests. And God says, okay, I will accept the offering, but you guys are all going to die. You all get burnt up. You become the offering. You are not allowed to offer something, but by getting close to something so holy, God is going to make you holy through fire, which is, yeah. There's a concept in the Bible where fire purifies. Water purifies, but fire also purifies. Water is washing. Fire burns away dross, like a crucible if you've got fine metals. But fire is also a way that God burns away bad stuff. He burns away the chaff. You know, the wheat and the chaff, he'll burn the chaff away. The fire over the fire over the heads in Pentecost. Fire is a common thing where God uses. So this is something, I don't remember which theologian pointed this out. I'm just going to say it was somebody else because I don't remember who, and I'm not smart enough to come up with this. But in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. What prevents them from going back to the Garden of Eden? Do you remember?
The angel and the sword.
The angel and the flaming sword. The flaming sword that flashed this way and that, it says. Yeah, would you say the Lich King?
Yeah.
Completely different story.
Just kidding.
No,
Just kidding.
Lord of the Rings, the witch. No, it's an angel and it's a flaming sword. It is fire preventing them from going into the holy place of the Garden of Eden, the place designed for perfect people, which they no longer were. And this theologian points out that this is actually a blessing that God prevented them from entering into this place where they could be in the presence of God directly. Because if something is sinful, if something is not supposed to be in the presence of God, if it enters the presence of God, it is burned away. This is an interesting thing that, good morning. This is an interesting thing that I'm thinking it's the Eastern Orthodox, they kind of get it right. Now, the conclusions they draw from it are wrong, but basically they say this, that they say that the glory of God is like the bright sun outside. We live in Arizona, we know about the bright sun outside. Now, if that bright sun falls on the plants that are planted and watered, then it makes them grow. The bright sun is good for these plants. But if you are, for example, a worm on the sidewalk and the bright sun is shining brightly, that's not good for you. It roasts you very quickly. It kills you. It's the same sun, but the effect that it has on the plants is beneficial. The effect that it has on the worm is detrimental. In a similar sense, the fire of God, when the fire of God lands on the people in Pentecost, when the fire of God is present around God's people, they are protected from the fire. So the fire kills that which is bad and preserves or enhances that which is good. The fire at Pentecost was a good thing. Think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. They were not consumed by the fire. They weren't singed. They didn't even smell of smoke. They were preserved from the fire. Water does a similar thing. Water is often used to drown people in the Bible. Think about Noah. Noah and his ark. Noah, they were preserved from the water, but it drowned all the people who were unbelievers, all the people who rejected God. So fire and water do these things. And in this case, God uses the fire to purify the offering, but the people were wicked and evil, so they were consumed by that fire rather than blessed by that fire. It's the fire of God, but it didn't hurt Aaron and Moses, for example. It didn't hurt the people who were allowed to offer the fire. So the blessing of God, in many cases, if you are disrespectful of the blessing of God, if you try to misuse God's blessings, it can come back on you as a curse. It can be detrimental to you. It's like if you have medicine. Your doctor gives you some very powerful medicine to help you cure you of a disease. But if you take the wrong amounts of it, or if you take it in a way you're not supposed to take the medicine, you can get very sick. You can even die if you take medication the wrong way. It's good medicine if you use it the way that the doctor gave it to you. It's bad for you if you use it a new, different way. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, it talks about the Lord's Supper in this way. The early church referred to it as the medicine of immortality. It's like medicine, the Lord's Supper, the body and the blood of Christ. If you take it according to God's prescription, take and eat, take and drink, this is my body, this is my blood, shed for you for the forgiveness of all of your sins, then thanks be to God. If you take it according to the prescription of the Bible, then it is a blessing for you. But in 1 Corinthians 11, you had people who were taking it just to get drunk and to get fat off of. They were just pigging out. This was not a holy meal. This was some food that they were just eat and get fat and get drunk off of. And God said, this is why, or Paul says, this is why many of you have gotten sick and have even died. So it's a good thing. It is a good thing of God, but if it's taken by the wrong people who are not prepared, or people who take it for the wrong reasons, then it can be harmful for them, just like medicine. Just like fire can keep you warm if you're cold, fire can also burn down the house if you're not careful with it. Water can be wonderful. It can quench your thirst and wash you, but it can also drown you if you're messing around with it. Yes, sir.
So those fake priests or wannabe priest people, they wanted the good medicine, but they were using it in the wrong way because they were like, "Yo, I'm gonna be like Aaron."
Right. They wanted to be.
And then God didn't like it, so He's like,
"Yes."
You're dead.
They not only did they wanted to not just have the medicine, but they wanted to be the doctors. They wanted to be the ones who decided.
So they were jealous.
They were
Parts they were jealous, and they didn't like
of Moses and Aaron. They wanted Moses and Aaron's
plan.
job.
They didn't like any of that stuff, so they tried to rework the plan for what they wanted.
Yep. God says, "Here's what I'm setting up." They said, "Well, we'll set up something different instead." And this is. And if we want to extend this a little bit, extend the understanding of this a little bit, this can also come up when we're talking about good works, for example. God does give us good works to do. Love your neighbor. Love God. Take care of one another. Pray for one another. Things like that. Honor your father and mother. These are good works that God tells you to do. These are things that God blesses you to do. However, God does not give you the authority to invent new good works. Like saying, I am going to make a pilgrimage to a chapel in New Mexico, and I'm going to crawl on my knees on the cobblestone pavement to the chapel, and God is going to bless me. Well, God never said He would do that. You don't have the authority to create new good works, to create relics and things that you can do that give you an additional blessing. You can't say, well, if I flagellate myself, if I whip myself, if I punish myself, then God is going to give me extra blessing. No. That doesn't work like that. You're not in charge of deciding how God gives His blessings out.
Or He'll take the plague away.
Yeah, well, yeah, and this is something, Martin Luther talks about this. Yeah, Martin Luther talks about this quite a bit because... Flagelling people, yeah.
You're not in charge of taking care of yourself anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, so Martin Luther will talk about this a bit because the Roman Catholics came up with these different traditions and these different things to do or to say that would give them a blessing, that they believed would give them a blessing. So, for example, praying the rosary. Now, there's nothing wrong with using beads to pray, with using them as a way to keep track of your prayers. There's nothing wrong with praying the Lord's Prayer every day, multiple times a day. There is something wrong with saying, because I prayed the Lord's Prayer 10 times in a row, therefore I get extra grace from God. Because I prayed, I spent 30 minutes meditating on the scriptures, which is a good thing. Because I did this, however, God is going to specifically give me bonus points or whatever.
Or the teacher off your back.
Get the teacher off your back because you did your penance. If I punish myself, then God is going to bless me. That is not something in the Bible ever. Now, there are things where it talks about fasting, but fasting is not punishing yourself. Fasting is disciplining yourself, getting used to being uncomfortable. That's what fasting is. It's like taking a cold shower. It's good for you. It doesn't give you blessing bonus brownie points from heaven. So this is one of those things where we have to be careful with what we say God has commanded and what we say God gives us blessings. So for example, what if we used incense in church? There's incense in the Bible. There's lots of it. Let my prayer rise before you as incense. If you have evening prayer, a lot of times.
I'm thinking of ashes.
Oh, the ash. Okay, that's an excellent point. The ashes. I'll get to that next. That's a great example.
I think I have some coffee.
Oh, I've got some. Thank you. So incense. Incense is in the Bible. Incense is in temples. Incense is in worship. There's nothing wrong with using incense in the church, unless you think that by using that incense, you are somehow making God give you a blessing that you wouldn't otherwise have. Like if we came in here and I didn't have my vestments or whatever, it's not like God is less present. They serve a function. They serve a purpose. Incense does serve a purpose. If you have incense in church, that's one more of your senses that is brought into the worship service. You are hearing the music. You see the people around you. You see the parts of the worship service. And now you're also smelling something that indicates to you that we're in a special place doing a special thing. It is not something that magically gives you a blessing. Like we have incense, and if we don't, you're sinning. And if we do, then you get extra bonus points. Ash Wednesday is another thing. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. That's biblical. That's a reminder that you do not deserve salvation, and you will eventually die. And you will be raised from the dead. This is a good reminder. This is a good tradition that we came up with. We invented this good tradition. It is not something that by receiving ashes on your forehead forgives your sins. It is not something that by receiving your ashes on your forehead, you have a special magical blessing, a dispensation of extra grace. It is a reminder for you of your salvation, of your baptism, of your impending death and your resurrection. And if it doesn't function as that, if you think, okay, I need to go and get ashes on me, so I've got special blessing points for the rest of the day, then maybe we don't have that, because that's the wrong thing to think. We are not allowed to invent new sacraments, invent new rituals, and then claim that God gives them, blesses us specifically, especially through them when God hasn't. So these priests, they decide that they want to be priests, that they want to come up with their own way to worship God, that they want to come up with their own contemporary worship, and they want to lead the service because they don't like the traditional service that Moses and Aaron are doing. And they offer this strange fire. They offer this different thing before God, and God says, no, you don't get to do that. You're not in charge. You don't get to just force yourself. You can't force yourself into the priesthood. You can't say, I am going to be in charge whether or not God says so. I'm going to be in charge of God's people and God's sacrifices. That's not how it works. God remains in charge, and he picks who he picks. Verse 41, but on that day, the congregation, all the people of Israel grumbled against... You would think that they learned their lesson. So God not only ate people with the earth, but also burned people in front of them miraculously. And what do the Israelites do? They go and try his patience again. How many times does it say in the Bible that the Israelites grumbled against God? And you would think that they would have learned their lesson, and they don't. They're just like me.
How many times?
How many times? I don't know. I would have to look it up, but I'm sure ChatGPT would tell you at least 10. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say we do the same thing.
That's exactly it. So the Israelites are a portrait of who we are as Christians. That God remains faithful to them and does keep them alive in spite of how many times they do these horrible things. No, we shouldn't look at the Israelites and say they are far worse than we would ever be. We should look at the Israelites and say, yeah, I've done that. I've done worse. I've been rebellious against God. I've deserved worse from God. I'm just as dumb as the Israelites are in terms of being obedient. I'm like a child who doesn't listen to his parents, and yet my parents still continue to love me. Yes, ma'am.
So why did they get swallowed up in those days and that doesn't happen now?
In these days, so a lot of times God will do these miracles as a demonstration of his authority. So a lot of times you will have, to show you that I am God, I will do this thing. This is why Jesus has a lot of visible miracles. In the case of this was a public demonstration. Moses specifically said, rather than just them falling down dead, I am going to publicly, as a visible warning for everybody around, show that I, Moses, am chosen by God to lead the people. At this point, in the Bible, it says, I'm trying to remember where it is in the New Testament, it says that the Jews demand signs and the Greeks demand basically logic or whatever, that different people are going to demand different things. They say, I need to see a miracle before I believe. And God continues to provide miracles in the New Testament. But at this point, we already have the established teachings of God. We already have the previous miracles to back them up. Could God Does God still do miracles today? I would say yes. But does he do these great, grand, visible miracles? Not really, because usually these miracles, whenever you see them, they're to point to a specific person and say, listen to this person. Look at this thing that's happening. You need to listen to this person because either he's a prophet or he's God himself. So because we don't have any prophets walking around anymore, Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 through 2, Jesus is the last one who does this. And the apostles are given the ability to do signs and wonders. Because of that, God doesn't really do as many signs and wonders. Something else to consider is in the Old Testament, it seems like it's jam-packed full of miracles. But if you look at it, if you look at the actual scope, it's over the course of thousands and thousands of years, and just with this small group of people, just with the Israelites. Since we have, 7 billion people or so on the planet now, over the course of the past 100 years instead of 1,000 years, I wonder how many visible miracles there have been, big visible miracles. I don't know that there would be that many because, again, God's purpose for doing visible miracles is often to indicate that this person either is God or is from God. Like Jesus says, for example, there's a man, I believe, a man who can't walk is brought to Jesus. Or Jesus goes to a man who can't walk. He goes up to the man, and this guy is paralyzed, and he says, your sins are forgiven.
Yay.
Yay. His sins are forgiven.
Yay.
But you would think that the guy wanted to walk. Jesus forgives him sins, which is more important. But the Pharisees say, well, who is this guy? How can this guy claim to forgive sins? And then Jesus says, you're right. Only God can forgive sins as I have done, which means that I'm God. But which is easier, to say your sins are forgiven or to say get up and walk? Now, just to show you that I have the authority to forgive sins, get up and walk. So Jesus does a visible sign, get up and walk, heals a paralytic man, to show that he has the spiritual authority to forgive sins. Because we don't have somebody walking around as a prophet, apostle, or Jesus Christ himself today, that's one of the reasons I suspect why we wouldn't see as many visible signs. Now, of course, the Bible does not say there will never, ever be any more visible, miraculous signs, again, but this is just us judging based on the pattern of when were the miracles used. They were used to demonstrate somebody's authority, that God has chosen them in a special way, like a prophet or an apostle or Jesus. Because we don't have those people walking around the earth, that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see it as much. Another one of the reasons is, with this, it was the Israelites. It was spaced out over all these years. And it's supposed to be such an in-your-face example of how could they possibly rebel? They know there's a God. They just saw these people burst into fire and get swallowed by the earth. How could they possibly then turn around and grumble against God? How could they possibly do this? That's the feeling it's supposed to give you is, what are they stupid? What are they? How are they so wicked and evil and disobedient and... oh, wait, that's me. Oh, wait, I'm not any better. That's one of the reasons why you have these big miracles and then disobedience. What was that? Yeah, I mean, this is the function of the devil, is that he makes you illogically, childishly rebellious. If it wasn't for sin in the world, then the Israelites would have behaved like they should have. They should have said, yes, Lord, we trust in you, whatever you do. And they would have been in the promised land 40 years earlier. Let's keep going. All right, verse 41, but the next day all the congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses, against Aaron, saying, you have killed the people of the Lord.
Hey.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Traumatized by this experience.
Yeah, we were traumatized. We're triggered by you punishing people.
Must be traumatic, though.
It should be traumatic. Yeah, I hope so. That's kind of the point. That should be a warning sign. If God is going to burst people into flames and swallow them by the earth, that maybe don't rebel. Verse 42, when the congregation had assembled against Moses and against Aaron, not even the same chapter, they're already making the same mistake. They turned toward the tents of meeting, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. And Moses and Aaron came to the front of the tent of meeting. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, get away from the midst of this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces. And Moses said to Aaron, take your censer and put fire on it from the altar, and lay incense on it, and carry it quickly to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For the wrath has gone out from him, the Lord. The plague has begun. So Aaron took it, as Moses said, and ran in the midst of the assembly, and behold, the plague had already begun among the people. He put the incense on and made atonement for the people. And he stood between the dead and the living. The plague was stopped. Now those who died in the plague were 14,700 besides those who died in the affair of Korah. And Aaron returned to Moses in the entrance of the tent of meeting where the plague was stopped. So God starts consuming the people of Israel, and the priest makes intercession for the people. The priest protects them by the sacrifice of incense. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. Look at the contrast here between what Moses did and its results and what those 250 men did and that results. They acted selfishly for their own benefit to elevate themselves, and as a result of that, other people died. And they died as well. Aaron, on the other hand, runs and grabs the censer and acts on behalf of the people. He does what God commands, and he has the authority to do it. And because of this, God saves the people. So Aaron acts according to God's command, and people are saved. Korah and the rebellious act contrary to God's command, and people died. It's a very simple lesson. You would think that the Israelites would learn it. It doesn't. They don't. Spoiler alert. They don't learn it. It takes them a while. Some of them are faithful, but some of them just keep falling into this thing. And you've got to imagine that not every single Israelite rebelled against Aaron and Moses. You know how you could have been protected from the plague that came around the tent of meeting? Don't go to that. Don't go to that protest. That, no priests, no kings rally. don't show up. Yeah, if you don't want to get tear gassed, if you don't want the holy tear gas of God, don't try to tear down his courthouse.
Does this mean God, he changed his mind and just got more angry? Or
no.
He knew he was going to get angry? So
no, God knew exactly what was going to happen. So it was entirely appropriate that every single person in front of that tent was killed. That could have happened, and there still would have been people left over, people who were faithful. It would have been entirely appropriate for every single sinner to die. And yet, some priest ran and put himself in harm's way and offered a sacrifice in their stead and protected them. I wonder if that's a picture of
like
anything
Jesus.
that happens later on. Yes, it's like Jesus. Yes, ma'am.
Our God wasn't an angry God.
Oh, yes, he is. Our God is an angry God. He smites from heaven above with fire, lightning bolts, and
We gotta make a
plagues
new
and
video.
boils and...
Make it ASMR.
I just made that up. I don't Our God is an angry God.
That's a real song. You just changed the lyrics.
Anyway, we'll
From
make
the
this a new
90s.
version instead of our God is an awesome. Well, that is what awesome means. It means that you are awestruck. So God, there is a righteous wrath of God. God is not capricious. It's not like God flies back and forth in his emotions. But there is a righteous fury. I'll give an example of, I won't give it a specific example. So a father. For example, if you've got, have any of you had a very protective father who cared about you enough to, okay, so imagine this. Your father is out, you go to the park with your father one day, with your family one day, and you're a small child. You're vulnerable. And there's a rabid dog. There's a dog on the loose. And your father is a loving father. He's a kind father. He's a caring father. He's a father who carries you in his arms. He's a father who sings you to sleep at night. And yet this rabid dog comes running at the child. Does the father not jump up in anger and wrath and fury and beat the dog to death to save his own child? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. And this is what God the Father is like. He's not angry for the sake of being angry. He's angry for the sake of these people are doing things that will send them to hell if they keep doing it. His wrath is kindled against the wicked because the wicked are going to harm his children. And this is how we can see it, that God does have anger and wrath and violence. I've heard it said before that God is meek. Not weak with a W, but meek with an M. And the difference is that meekness is a sheathed sword. Meekness is you have the capacity for violence and you choose not to take it out at every moment. Every time the Israelites grumbled, God could have smote them all down immediately. All at once, instantly. But in this case, he allowed for them to be saved, at least many of them to be saved. What was that?
But the ones that didn't do the bad thing.
Yeah, the ones that didn't do the bad thing were fine. The ones that did do the bad thing, even some of them were able to be saved. Aaron ran around with the incense.
Yeah.
You think about it like the ones who grumbled in the wilderness. Oh, we haven't gotten to that yet. With a bronze serpent on the pole. They get bitten by snakes. They all deserve to die. All the ones who were grumbling, they deserve to die. And then he still provides the sacrifice for them, the bronze serpent on the pole to keep them alive. So it does seem like God is angry sometimes they do kind of have it coming. God is his anger is in response is appropriate. It's appropriate anger. I'll say it like that. It is appropriate anger. God is never inappropriately angry. He does not lose his temper for no reason. If he is very angry, there is a very good reason he has for it. Better than any reason we ever have to be angry. I'll keep going. Numbers chapter 17, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel, and get from them one staff, each one from their father's house, and from all their chiefs according to their father's house. 12 staffs. Write each man's name on his staff, and write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi. For there he shall be one staff for the head of each father's house." Okay, so remember what had just happened. The people were rebelling. They thought that they wanted to be the priests. Who gets to be the high priests? Well, Aaron was kind of already chosen, Aaron and Moses. And these people said, no, we want to be chosen. So first, negatively, God kills all the people saying that we ought to be high priests instead. But then positively, he's going to indicate who he does want to be the priest. Verse 4, "Then you shall deposit them in the tent of meeting before the testimony where I will meet you. And the staff of the man whom I choose will sprout. Thus I will make to cease from me the grumblings of the people of Israel, which they grumble against you." Okay, you would think that they would learn from this. God is saying, I'm going to pick once and for all who the high priest is, and then you guys have no reason to complain ever again about this. Yeah, that goes exactly how you think. Verse 6, Moses spoke to the people of Israel, and all their chiefs gave him staffs, one for each chief, according to their father's house, 12 staffs. And the staff of Aaron was among the staff, and Moses deposited the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. On the next day, Moses went into the tent of testimony, and behold, the staff of Aaron for the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds and produced blossoms and bore ripe almonds. Then Moses brought out all the staffs from before the Lord and the people of Israel, and they all looked. Each man took his staff, and the Lord said to Moses, "Put back the staff of Aaron before the testimony to keep it as a sign for the rebels, that you may make an end to the grumblings against me, lest they die." So God is doing this to prevent people from dying, because every time people rebel, people die. So once again, here's a clear sign of who we want as the high priest. Thus Moses did as the Lord commanded, so he did. And the people of Israel said to Moses, "Behold, we perish. We are undone. We are all undone. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of the Lord shall die. Are we to perish?" Which is exactly the wrong takeaway from this thing. The problem is not that you guys came to the tabernacle. The problem is you came to the tabernacle to burn it down. Well, we can't come close to God because we're going to die. We can't follow Aaron because we're going to die. No, the problem is that you guys were rebelling, not that you guys were in the presence of God. So this is. I'll put a stop to it here. This is where Aaron is chosen as the priest.
He wasn't chosen yet?
Well, he was chosen yet already. He was already anointed and everything like that. But this is where, again, it's indicated in front of the people. Look at the staff of Aaron is an indicator of his priestly office.
So he was reelected?
He was not reelected. He was already chosen, and the people said, "Nuh-uh."
Affirmed.
He was affirmed, reaffirmed. That's a good one. I like that. He was reaffirmed. It was indicated once again, the thing which was obvious. It should have been obvious to anybody paying attention. But yes, and so later on, the staff, the budded staff. So this is one of the items that goes into the Ark of the Covenant. The items that go into the Ark of the Covenant, I believe, there's a jar of manna, there is the stone tablets, there is the budded staff. I don't remember if there's anything else. There might be some of the incense or something.
You said.
Yeah, the Ten Commandments. Yeah, the stone tablets, the staff of Aaron, a jar of manna. So the bread of life goes in. The mark of the priesthood goes in, the mark of the law goes in. And this is one of the reasons, and we're going to get to this later on, this is one of the reasons that I think the Ark of the Covenant, also based on some other things that we sing and say, the Ark of the Covenant is not a representation of Mary, but is a representation of Jesus. Because within Jesus is the bread of life. Within Jesus is the mark of the high priest. He is the high priest forever. Within Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. Jesus is all of those things in the Ark of the Covenant. Jesus is the place where God dwells always. That's the Ark of the Covenant. Jesus is the mercy seat. Jesus is the place where the presence of the Lord is most concentrated on the earth. So with that, let's close with the doxology.